What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Bianconeri Zone for a daily news update. And it's Rabiot. Actually, it's his mom. We haven't heard of him for quite a while, and actually, ever since he joined us, it's been quite quiet. It isn't like there's no real drama and whatsoever. But today he spoke and he had some things to say, some interesting things in my opinion, and some things that I personally pointed out that could be a problem or I don't like in this entire Rabiot situation. But we will go into that. Before we do that, like the video, do that now. Subscribe to the channel if you're new or if you're not new, because a lot of people do not subscribe. And yeah, let's get straight into the Rabiot drama. Okay, so Rabiot, I think everybody remembered last week or so when the news popped up that it's kind of a done deal. Like the only thing that it could potentially derail Rabiot staying for another season is us not making the Champions League. That was the news report somewhere midweek last week that came out. I don't know. I forgot which newspaper it was. I thought it was Gazzetta dello Sport, and that was it basically. Now, Rabiot, his mom, agent, he spoke about it. He spoke about that news report, and he had quite a few things to say. I will read it out first. She said, "I completely deny the news that appeared on Thursday in the media regarding Adrian's contract renewal with Juve. He has not made any decisions about his future and solely focused on the field and this season. At the moment, there are no discussions with any club about his future, even though I was angry on Thursday morning when I discovered the news on the front page, which is nothing more than a total invention. I chose to respond only today to let the weekend pass and not interfere with Adrian's match." Now, that's a fair thing to say when there's fake news out there. I think all of us were like, that's something positive. I think we all, like Chiesa situation, Vlahovic situation, whatever in the past, when the news piles on, maybe like the Yildiz one, you preferred an agent to come out and say, you know what, that's not really true. But that's not really the case here, in my opinion, because news pops up every single week. An agent is not coming out every single week to deny something. She wanted to make sure that, hey, I'm in control here and nothing is really happening. My point with the entire Rabiot situation, or my issue with the entire Rabiot situation, is that we look extremely desperate. We look extremely desperate, and I don't like that, because for all the good Rabiot has done in this last year and a half, he's not worth 8 million euros a season. He's not worth that even close. And don't come in the comments, what about Vlahovic? What about Chesney? We spoke about that, but those players are not living on a one-year deal at 8 million euros a season. They got those contracts. We cannot get underneath that. We gave them that money. We kind of have no option unless begging them to lower the demands or try to sell them. That's what we can do with those type of players. The Rabiot situation is we're creating this. He's on 8 million euros a season. And let's be completely honest. And yes, he has good moments and the goals, whatever. If you watch Rabiot play, not one sane person is going to tell or convince me that's what you want from an 8 million euro player a season. And to that extent that you're like, yeah, let's give him another 8 million euro a season. That's not it. Like, it's not even close. It's absolutely not even close to that. And that's my problem with the entire situation, that we look desperate. We look like, please stay. We will give you another 8 million and probably a couple of millions to sign on the contract, because he's getting sign-on bonuses, as is his mother, because he's a free agent every single season. We're paying and we're actually burning the money away, because there's no future in it. 1-year deal. We're living off a 1-year deal. I absolutely do not like that. The only thing that's likable about that he's performing, because he has a 1-year deal. Like, you better perform, because if you're a free agent and you stink out the place for a year, who's going to offer you that money? So he's kind of gambling on himself, which might be a good thing, but he's not worth that money. It's not even close. And I don't like that we're kind of being kept hostage, because you cannot plan for the future. How can you plan for January and forget about what Mana kind of said about we're good as we are. We probably don't need to sign players. And in the same interview, he's saying we plan to have 2 extra players for Jordi and Pogba. Now they're gone. So I don't know. He's contradicting himself in the same interview here. But you cannot plan for January or the summer when you don't know if you're gonna have Rabiot, yes or not. If you only know towards the end of the season, that's ridiculous in my opinion. That's absolutely madness. It feels extremely desperate. It doesn't feel good. It feels like they are in complete control, and they are, considering the situation, considering what his mom is saying, and all the news we know that's going around. I have no issue with Rabiot staying, but not on that money. And don't come at me with the decree and it's lower on the books. I want the club to plan for the future. The situation is what it is. I get that, potentially it is cheaper to keep him for another year, considering spending money. But this feels so short term for a player he's replaceable. Like, he's not one of those guys where you're like, we cannot replace him. And even if you want to replace him, we need to spend an 80 million euros here. He's not that type of player. It's like somebody telling me you need to replace Cambiasso. And I like Cambiasso. Even at this moment in time, you can replace him. You don't need to spend 70 million euros to get a player that's going to do the same thing Cambiasso is doing, if that makes any sense, like if somebody tells you we need to replace Bremer, let him go, I'm like, okay, that can become an issue unless we get big money for Bremer. We don't have that money to replace Bremer. I don't think Rabiot was putting in those performances that I'm like, this is unreplaceable. I think the situation is just sad. It's maybe he's gonna stay, maybe he's not gonna stay. Who knows? We will know at the end of the season. I'm like, hold on. What about now? What about planning for the future? Are you going to make 2 separate plans? If he's going to stay, if he's not going to stay? I just think it's ridiculous at this point. I'm not a fan of the situation. And his mom, and again, agents, if they are going to deny everything in the media, they're speaking 24/7. They just let it fly by. Unless something is absolutely ridiculous and there's absolutely some mad news about a player, they probably will, put out a statement. But to put out a statement about an article that Rabiot is going to say is telling. She wants to make sure that everybody knows they are in control, and they will tell the world he's going to say yes or no. Basically, that's what the situation is. Because why would you otherwise come out to just deny a simple report about he's gonna stay? Like, it's not big. It's not a big deal. Like, it's absolutely not a big deal. Is that she wants everybody to know, what, he's still a free agent potentially. And with the Euros on the horizon, I don't like the situation, because how long will this drag on? I have a feeling it could potentially drag on after the Euros, because, well, it makes sense for everybody involved. If he does well, the price goes up. If he just does okay, the price remains what it is. So I'm not a fan of the situation at all, especially because it's not involving a player that is so amazing that I'm like, oh my god, if we lose him, what else? And yes, the stats we don't lose with Rabiot, blah blah blah. Just use your eye test. He's a player you can replace long term, and that's what I want the club to think long term, not 1 year, and praying and hoping he's gonna stay. And it's mid-season already. It's January. I think he should have already a feel about he's going to stay. Sandro's going to leave. Rogani's going to sign that new deal. Like, I think you should have a feel, because you should be prepping for, especially January, but also into the new season. But that's the situation with Rabiot. I thought it was kind of strange that the statement came out like this just for a report about a renewal. Like, it was not some crazy news that you're like, okay, the agent needs to speak because this is kind of weird, some weird things to say. But it is what it is, I guess. That's it for this one. Let me know in the comments what you make of the entire situation, and if you actually think he is going to say, or if he actually should say in the first place. Let me know, and subscribe to the channel. Join us for the live show where we're going to talk about what Mana had to say, or rewatch that afterwards. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Ciao.